Guys, we have here my Volkswagen Type 181, frequently referred to in the US as a Thing. In Mexico it's called a Safari, but in Germany it was called the 181. It was the modernized equivalent to the World War II Kubelwagen. And that was it was used by the German military NATO forces well up into the 80s, actually, as a troop transport, officer transport, just like it was used in World War II. After that, they tried to, well, during that, they actually added some civilianized features and tried to import these into the US as an off-road vehicle, which it's actually quite good at, even though it's two-wheel drive, but there were some safety issues that caused it to only be imported for 2 years. And as a result, they couldn't modify the design sufficiently to make it safe by American standards. And so there's very few of these out here. I mean, they're kind of rare. This is an a 74. I use this as my primary off-road vehicle. I also drive around town with it. It's a primary vehicle for me. In the civilianized version, the spare tire was actually stored under this hood. I need space under there, so I mounted it on the hood like you would have expected from the original Kubelwagen. Obviously, things have been civilianized. The headlamps and stuff were different. But in general, the car actually has much more in common with its World War II counterpart than not. So here's some examples of that. So this one was actually lifted. The original, the civilianized ones were a little lower than this. This is about the same height as the original war model, which is good and more like the Type 181. Someone did that aftermarket. The original military version, this actual hood did not open up. There is still a gas tank under there, which is of course in front of the driver. Maybe not a good thing if you get into an accident, but that was still the case even in the original Kubelwagen. However, the gas feed system was changed to make it more civilian friendly and modernized. The gas feed now is on this left side down here. In the original car, it actually came up here like a spout. And so there was still space down there for storage. And what they did is inside the actual driver compartment, underneath there, which is now a solid wall, you can see it's solid, there was actually a compartment there to store a medical kit as well as a spare jerry can of gas. So, or fuel, I should say. So there was spare fuel held there. I actually keep my spare fuel somewhere else now since they've solidified that and made it more of a storage compartment to make it more friendly to modern needs. The roof really hasn't been modified much. It's really, back in the day, it was canvas or whatever the material was. Still folds down the same way, still folds up the same way, locks in place. The window can still go down if you wanted to. I really never use it that way. The doors open up differently than they did on the original Kubelwagen, but I mean, functionally, they're just stamp metal, sheet metal doors. Nothing special going on here. These doors can be taken off to run without doors. These are duck boards. This was used during the war. These duck boards were there for if you fired a gun inside the engine, or actually inside the passenger compartment, the brass wouldn't get under your feet. It would land up under these duck boards. It made it easier for the driver. Wouldn't get stuck under the pedals, as well as not under the feet of anyone in the compartment, as well as maybe other things would roll around on there. So these duck boards are something that are, it's a replica thereof, but the same idea. A cup holder, which is a requirement in an American car. Of course, that wasn't there during the war. These rear chairs were sort of added here. These compartments were used during the war for a lot of different things. The width right here is actually designed to store MG34 ammo cans or 8mm ammo cans. They go across the length, and I'll superimpose a photo of that. I use it now with a pole just to keep stuff back there for storage. But as you can see, I keep targets back there and other stuff. And actually, there's my my gas cans right here for store gas. But you could put these chairs up. Sometimes we'll turn this into a medical transport, and there'll be a bed right here for the injured and some storage over there. But otherwise, very similar. The dashboard's been changed. The speedometer is now in front of the steering wheel. Back in the day, it was actually here, and the ignition key was right here. And the car, well, a lock, I should say, and the car was actually started with a button, unlike now, which is started with just a standard steering wheel ignition key. It's got the old-timey Volkswagen logo on it. You can see that's the Wolfsburg logo. It's the castle with the wolf on top. That's a city that was essentially came to birth because of the Volkswagen. The hubcaps have the original old Volkswagen logo, which is the V&W with a gear cog around it. That's representative of the old Volkswagen. That was the original logo, in fact. So as we walk around the vehicle, I got off-road all-terrain vehicle, wheels on there for obvious reasons. And here we are at the engine compartment, where I'm going to give you a tour of that while it's running. I actually have the roof, the engine compartment door off right now. As it gets warmer in the summer, I take the door off. It actually allows air to come through, and it cools the engine better. But in the cooler months, I'll just put the door back on, and you're good to go. So hey guys, this is a tour of the running engine. It's going to be a little loud. I'll give you a little tour here. This is actually the air filter. It's called an oil bath. There's actually a pool of oil down here and a metal filter with some horsehair fiber and other fibers in it. Air goes through this intake, takes a 180-degree turn, and a lot of the dirt particulates stuck in the oil down here before it gets into the air feed into the carburetor. The idea behind this is that it's serviceable in the field and it essentially works forever. You don't need replacement air filters. All you got to do is pull this unit off, clean the actual air filter with some sort of cleaner, put some old oil in here, fill a reservoir, put it back together, and you're good to go. This is the carburetor. This is your accelerator. This is literally a mechanical piece of cable tied to the pedal up front. This is an electronic automatic choke. This is modern, well, more modern. They added this later. Originally, it was a mechanical choke. Here's your fuel pump. Right here, the mechanical fuel pump. This line comes from the gas tank. This line goes to the carburetor. There's a diaphragm in there. It goes up and down, and that causes fuel to be pumped into the reservoir up here, which is then pumped into the carburetor when you hit the accelerator. This right here is the generator. It's not an alternator, it's a generator. It generates 12 volts to the electrical system, and that's run off of the engine. Of course, here's your engine spinning that. Provides that 12 volts of power. Right here we have your distributor. That's spinning right now, which is sending sparks to the 4 cylinders. Of course, timed by the rotation of the engine. Back here behind this fan towel, and you can't see it, is what they call a dog house. It's essentially an oil cooler. So what actually cools this engine is airflow over the oil. The oil goes through that dog house, which is essentially radiated, and that fan pulls air through it, and pushes the air through it regardless. And that forces air through that radiation, and it cools the oil temperature. Air is sucked in through these cowlings, which are on the side compartments here. The original cars just had cuts in it. Modernized ones on the 181 had these cowlings to pull in more air, which pulls air through the engine compartment, which is then pushed through the radiation, the oil radiator, which cools the oil, which then is used to cool the engine. It's really a very simple engine. There's not a lot going on here. There's a map lamp down here, which you can open up with a little, as you slowly open it, it'll turn on, and that keeps the light down, and you can open it to make it brighter, or you can close it. But the actual reasoning for that, and this is still the case on this vehicle, it's funny that that's still here, is that you can, it's a real simplistic dimmer, but because it angles the light downward, it makes you less likely to be detected by from the air. Other things to note, this is a 2-wheel drive vehicle, and it was during the war for the most part as well. And it's a rear-wheel drive. Most of the weight is in the back of the vehicle. It's a very light car. There's really nothing exposed under the vehicle to get damaged. The whole bottom is just one giant metal plate. As you can see, there's nothing down here. The idea behind that is that you literally use it like a ski. So you drive this a little differently than you would a 4-wheel drive vehicle. It's high enough that for the most part you don't hit anything. But if you see something coming up you need to get over, like a sand berm or something else, you actually accelerate into it, and the whole car kind of just skids right over it. And I've used that quite effectively a number of times, actually quite regularly. And my gosh, it really works. I've never been stuck in this vehicle, even though it's only 2-wheel drive. That's a little brief tour of my Volkswagen Thing, sometimes referred to as the 181, and really the direct descendant of the World War II German Kubelwagen. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. Please subscribe. Share with your friends.